You've been told some debt is good. Financial planners repeat this. Banks advertise it. Business shows promote it. They call certain borrowing smart debt, low-rate mortgages, student loans, business credit lines. Then they warn you about bad debt, credit cards, personal loans, anything with double-digit rates. Here's the uncomfortable truth. This distinction keeps millions broke. Not because the mathematics fails. Numbers on paper actually support it. Borrow at 3%. Invest at 8%. Keep the spread. Simple. But mathematics doesn't account for human psychology. Psychology is where wealth gets built or destroyed. Researchers tracking household finances have documented something remarkable. Families carrying what experts classify as good debt often accumulate less wealth than debt-free families, even when those debt-free families sacrificed higher return investments to eliminate their obligations. Why? Debt alters how you think. It shapes every financial choice afterward. Today, we're exposing this disconnect. More importantly, we're giving you a 1-minute audit that works regardless of debt type, interest rate, or financial sophistication. You won't need spreadsheets. You won't need complex formulas. One sheet of paper. 60 seconds. That's it. Let's examine why everything you've heard about good debt is fundamentally flawed. Financial institutions love categories. Good debt, bad debt. Secured versus unsecured. Tax-deductible versus non-deductible. These categories serve banks better than they serve you. Research from Princeton reveals how debt psychology actually works. Psychologists Abigail Sussman and Shafir studied how people perceive wealth when they carry various debt types. Their findings contradicted conventional advice. People holding identical net worth felt dramatically different about their financial status depending on their debt structure, not their interest rates or tax benefits. The research showed something critical. When comparing two individuals with the same net worth, people consistently perceived the one with lower debt as wealthier. This held true even when the low-debt person had fewer total assets. This isn't irrational. It's human psychology protecting itself from cognitive burden. Consider student loans. The average borrower in 2015 carried $35,000 in educational debt. Rates typically ranged from 4 to 7%. Conventional wisdom says keep making minimum payments while investing surplus income at higher returns. Except most people don't invest the surplus. Research from the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston tracked outcomes. They examined data from the panel study of income dynamics following thousands of households over decades. Their findings were striking. Homeowners under 40 with student debt showed substantially lower wealth accumulation compared to similar households without such debt, even after accounting for education level, income, and demographic factors. The correlation between student debt and reduced wealth was strong across multiple measures. The problem isn't just the debt itself. It's how debt reshapes financial behavior. When you carry obligations, you think differently about money. Risk tolerance drops. Career flexibility diminishes. Investment decisions change. You default to maintaining the status quo because disruption threatens your ability to service debt. This is the categorization trap. It gives permission to maintain obligations that constrain wealth building capacity, not through interest charges primarily, but through behavioral impact. Debt extracts 3 costs your lender never mentions. Every dollar committed to debt service cannot deploy elsewhere. This sounds obvious until you calculate the compounding effect. Consider a household earning $120,000 annually. They maintain $280,000 in mortgage debt, $45,000 in student loans, $18,000 in auto loans. Monthly obligations total $3,200. That's $38,400 yearly toward debt service. It seems manageable. Only 32% of gross income. Now project forward. That $38,400 annually, redirected into diversified index funds averaging 8% returns, grows to approximately $1.9 million over 30 years. The household, debt-free earlier, could potentially accumulate nearly $2 million more wealth over their working lifetime. But the constraint goes deeper. Research from Harvard Business School examined entrepreneurs with varying debt levels. Scholars found that individuals carrying mortgage and student debt were 43% less likely to launch businesses during economic expansions, precisely when opportunities were most abundant. Debt didn't just cost them interest. It cost them entire entrepreneurial pathways they never pursued. Your body pays for debt even when your checking account covers payments. Researchers at the National University of Singapore conducted a unique study on debt relief. They examined low-income households in Singapore receiving charity-funded debt restructuring. The researchers measured cognitive function, anxiety levels, and decision-making before and after debt relief. Results were profound. Debt relief improved cognitive functioning significantly. More importantly, the number of debt accounts cleared mattered more than the total dollar amount eliminated. Having fewer separate obligations reduced what researchers called bandwidth taxes, the mental energy consumed simply tracking and managing multiple debts. Participants showed improved performance on cognitive tests. Anxiety decreased measurably. Decision-making quality improved. This wasn't about having more money available. This was about reducing psychological burden. Similar patterns emerge globally. A systematic review published in Frontiers in Psychology examined debt's relationship with depression, anxiety, and stress across 7 Asian countries. The evidence consistently showed being in debt correlated with experiencing depression, anxiety, stress, and even suicide ideation. Chronic stress impacts decision-making quality. It reduces focus. It damages long-term health. These effects compound over decades, yet no financial calculator factors them into debt optimization models. This cost is most insidious. Debt commits you to maintaining your current income indefinitely. Imagine someone earning $85,000 annually with $2,400 in monthly debt obligations. Life feels stable. Payments get made. Everything seems manageable. Then they consider a career change, perhaps teaching, which they've always valued, or nonprofit work, or scaling back hours to care for aging parents. These options would reduce income to $55,000. Suddenly, those manageable debt payments become crushing, consuming 52% of the new income instead of 34%. So they don't make the change. They stay in the higher-paying role not because they love it, but because debt obligations demand it. They've locked themselves into lifestyle maintenance for the next 15 to 30 years. That's not financial freedom. That's indentured service with comfortable accommodations. If debt constrains wealth building so significantly, why do intelligent people defend it? Because the system teaches them to. Financial education in America comes primarily from institutions profiting from debt. Banks create the curriculum. Mortgage companies sponsor the conferences. Credit processors fund the research centers. This isn't conspiracy. This is business model reality. Lenders benefit when consumers borrow steadily for decades. They benefit more when consumers believe they're making sophisticated financial decisions while doing so. Consider how debt gets presented in financial media. Articles explain smart leverage and strategic borrowing. They profile successful people who used mortgages intelligently or invested instead of prepaying loans. These narratives aren't wrong. They're incomplete. They highlight the few who successfully executed complex strategies while ignoring the many who attempted the same approach and failed. This is survivorship bias. The same flaw that makes people think they'll get rich day trading stocks because they heard about someone who did. Economists Atif Mian, Ludwig Straub, and Amir Sufi from Princeton and Harvard examined savings patterns from the 1980s through 2020. Their research, published in the Quarterly Journal of Economics, revealed something unexpected. As income inequality increased, the wealthiest 1% accumulated substantial savings. Where did these savings go? The researchers unveiled the financial sector to trace the money flow. Rich households had accumulated substantial positions in U.S. government and household debt. In other words, wealthy Americans became creditors. Everyone else became debtors. The system benefits those lending money, not those borrowing it. Yet the financial advice industry continues recommending strategies that statistically fail most people. Why? Because it generates more fee-based activity, more transactions, more managed accounts, more revenue for advisors. You're being sold a strategy that serves financial services better than it serves you. Here's the system that changes everything. One sheet of paper, 1 minute. Draw 3 columns. Label them: debt type, monthly payment, years remaining. List every debt you carry. Everything. Mortgage, student loans, car payments, personal loans, credit cards, home equity lines, all of it. Write the minimum monthly payment beside each debt. Calculate years remaining until payoff at your current payment rate. That's the audit. 60 seconds of honest accounting. Now comes the question most people never ask. What would life look like without these payments? Add up total monthly obligations. For many American households over 50, this ranges from $2,500 to $4,500. Some carry less, some carry significantly more. Multiply that number by 12. That's your annual debt service. Money that disappears regardless of goals, desires, or circumstances. Project forward. If you're 55 with 15 years remaining on major debts, you'll make payments until age 70, until Medicare age, until typical retirement begins, until income likely decreases but obligations don't. This is where the audit becomes transformative. You're not analyzing interest rates. You're not calculating tax deductions. You're confronting timeline reality. Forget debt snowballs. Forget avalanche methods. Forget interest rate optimization. Those strategies require sustained effort, constant decision-making, monthly attention most people don't maintain. They work beautifully in spreadsheets. They fail consistently in real life. Here's what actually works: the single account sweep system. Review last month's bank statements. Identify your average end-of-month balance, the amount typically remaining after all expenses and obligations. This is your real surplus, not what you think you should have, what you actually have. For most households, this ranges from $200 to $800. The exact amount doesn't matter. Honesty matters. Choose your smallest debt. Set up automatic additional payment equal to half your monthly surplus. If your surplus is $600, you'd add $300 monthly to your smallest debt's minimum payment. That's it. One automatic transaction. No decisions required monthly. No motivation necessary. It happens whether you remember or not. When that debt disappears, immediately redirect the full payment amount to your next smallest debt. You don't need to think about this. You don't need to decide anything. You just move one automatic payment to a different destination. This system eliminates decision fatigue. It removes need for monthly budget reviews. It works regardless of your financial literacy. Most importantly, it prevents lifestyle inflation. The money already left your account every month. When the debt disappears, that money continues leaving. It just goes toward freedom instead of obligation. Research from the National University of Singapore examined how debt structure affects behavior. Researchers found that simplifying debt structure, reducing the number of separate obligations people managed, improved cognitive functioning more than simply reducing total debt amounts. Complex systems requiring regular attention create what behavioral scientists call bandwidth taxes. Your brain spends energy managing the system instead of executing it. Automated systems requiring no ongoing decisions succeed because they remove your future self from the equation. Your future self will be tired, stressed, distracted, tempted. Automation doesn't care. The payment happens anyway. Something interesting happens when you start intentionally eliminating debt. Your relationship with money changes immediately. Researchers examining debt relief programs observed this pattern repeatedly. Within 60 days of beginning aggressive debt elimination, participants reported decreased financial anxiety, improved sleep quality, increased optimism about future prospects, even though their net worth had barely changed yet. The shift wasn't about being debt-free. The shift was about moving toward debt-free, about controlling the trajectory instead of accepting it. This matters more than most financial advice acknowledges. Your emotional state influences every subsequent money decision. When you feel powerless about debt, you make worse choices about spending. When you feel empowered about debt elimination, you naturally begin questioning unnecessary expenses. You don't need more willpower. You need a different psychological position. As you begin eliminating debt aggressively, your mind will generate objections. Recognize them as defense mechanisms protecting your current comfort level. Objection 1. But I'm getting tax deductions on this debt. Reality: mortgage interest deductions typically save households $3,000 to $6,000 annually. That's meaningful. But it's approximately 1/10 what you'd save by eliminating the mortgage entirely and redirecting that payment toward wealth accumulation. You're accepting $300,000 in debt to save $5,000 annually in taxes. That's not strategy. That's rationalization. Objection 2. Interest rates are so low right now. This argument became popular after 2008 when rates approached historic lows. Many people locked in mortgages below 4%. Yet research showed households with low-rate mortgages often saved less than those paying higher rates. Why? The low rate felt comfortable, creating no urgency for elimination. The rate isn't the issue. Psychological comfort that prevents aggressive action is the issue. Objection 3. I could invest the extra payments and earn higher returns. You could. Most people won't. Research from multiple sources shows the average investor consistently underperforms balanced portfolios, not because of market timing or poor selection, but because they don't consistently contribute. Theory says invest the difference. Reality says most people spend the difference. Debt elimination forces the contribution. Investment requires you to force it yourself monthly. Let's talk about what actually happens when major debts disappear. First month, confusion. You check your account repeatedly. Something feels wrong. Where did that payment go? It takes time to internalize that the money stayed. Second month, temptation. You've suddenly got $2,000 to $4,000 monthly that previously disappeared. Your mind generates purchase ideas. New vehicle, home renovation, vacation upgrade. This is where most people fumble financial freedom. They worked years eliminating debt, then immediately took on new obligations. Third month, adjustment. If you've automated redirection toward investments or remaining debts, this is when the new pattern solidifies. You stop noticing the surplus because it automatically moves toward your next goal. By sixth month, psychological transformation. You begin making decisions differently. Career opportunities get evaluated differently when you don't need to maintain specific income levels. Housing decisions change when you're not committed to one location. Retirement timelines adjust when you're not projecting decades of mandatory payments. This is the actual benefit of debt elimination, not interest saved, not balance sheet improvement. Freedom to make choices based on what you want rather than what you owe. Research tracking debt-free households reveals several consistent patterns. They retire earlier than comparable income peers, not necessarily because they have more wealth, but because their monthly needs are lower without debt service. They weather economic disruptions better. Data from the panel study of income dynamics shows households without debt report substantially less financial stress during economic downturns, even when both groups face similar income reductions. They help family members more readily. When children need support or grandchildren require assistance, debt-free grandparents can redirect resources without financial strain. They pursue interests that income-constrained peers avoid: volunteer work, extended travel, hobby businesses that might never generate profit. These become possible when monthly obligations don't constrain choices. Here's what we've covered. The good debt narrative serves lenders better than borrowers. It gives psychological permission to maintain obligations that constrain wealth-building capacity regardless of interest rate. Debt costs more than interest payments. It costs opportunity, flexibility, peace of mind. These hidden costs never appear on amortization schedules, yet they compound across decades. Smart people defend ineffective systems because financial industries profit from complexity. Simple approaches don't generate fees. Sophisticated strategies requiring ongoing management do. The 1-minute audit reveals what you actually owe and the timeline you're committed to servicing it. This simple awareness changes decision-making immediately. The minimal effort payment strategy eliminates decision fatigue by automating surplus toward debt elimination. Set it once, let it run. Redirect after each payoff. No monthly budget sessions required. Psychological shifts begin before financial metrics change. Taking control of trajectory matters more than current position. This mental transformation influences every subsequent money decision. Life after debt looks different than most people imagine. It's not about having more money. It's about having more choices. Freedom to make decisions based on desire rather than obligation. Here's what you do today. Take 1 minute. List your debts. Calculate total monthly obligation. Ask yourself the 5 critical questions. Then take one action. Set up a single automatic additional payment toward your smallest debt. Just one automated transaction. Nothing else required. That's how wealth accumulation actually works. Not through sophisticated strategies most people won't maintain. Through simple systems that continue working regardless of whether you're paying attention. The financial industry wants you believing debt management requires expertise, software, ongoing advisory services. It doesn't. It requires one honest list and one automated payment. Everything else is noise designed to keep you paying interest and paying advisors for decades. You now have the system that actually works. The question isn't whether it'll work for you. The question is whether you'll implement it.